Hello and welcome to the Galeblade News. The daughter of a woman killed by a nerve agent wants her mother's inquest to consider whether senior members of the Russian state were responsible. Dawn Sturgess died in hospital in Salisbury, Wiltshire in July 2018 after collapsing at her boyfriend's flat in nearby Amesbury. Lawyers for her daughter are arguing that coroner David Ridley's decision to limit the inquest's scope was wrong. Two High Court judges are expected to give their decision on Wednesday. Miss Sturgess, 44, was poisoned after inadvertently spraying herself with Novichok contained in a perfume bottle, which had been given to her by her partner, Charlie Rowley. Mr. Ridley, the senior coroner for Wiltshire, ruled that while the inquest can examine the actions of two Russian agents thought to have been responsible for bringing Novichok to the country, it should not look into the actions of other Russians or the Russian state, nor should it consider whether the nerve agent came from. He decided these were outside the scope of the inquest, the evidence is overseas, and Miss Sturgess was not the target of the attempted assassination. But lawyers acting for Miss Sturgess' daughter, referred to it in the case as GS because of her age, are arguing the decision was wrong. In his submissions, Michael Mansfield, QC, said the use of Novichok in the Salisbury was the first aggressive use of a nerve agent in Europe since the Second World War. It put hundreds of members of the British public at risk and killed Miss Sturgess. The issue of who was responsible for it is a matter of almost unparalleled public concern. There is a compelling public interest in this inquest, investigating what responsibility the Russian state had for Miss Sturgess' death. Police believe two Russian men using the names Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bosharevov brought the Novichok to Wiltshire in an attempt to assassinate the former agent Sergei Skripal. He and his daughter Yulia Skripal both ended up in intensive care after they were found slumped on a bench in Salisbury in March 2018, but both survived. The decontamination of Salisbury and nearby Amesbury took nearly a year to complete. Lawyers for the Home Secretary are arguing that the coroner's decision to limit the scope of the inquest was correct. The hearing is due to end on Wednesday and is being conducted virtually with all participants, including the two judges, Lord Justice Bean and Mr. Justice Lewis, appearing on a video call. So my opinion of this is actually, I can agree why the judge has decided to kind of not involve itself with Russia. The problem with doing that is, firstly, it relies on Russia to cooperate. They're not going to exactly hand over kind of forensic evidence or be willing to help. And in part, trying to find this information would involve kind of intelligence agencies being able to get into Russia and deal with it from that side. That could potentially put other people at risk for the sake of just an individual who was unfortunate enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's the reality. She got the spray bottle from a bin. If she hadn't have done that action, if that had not happened, maybe she would have been alive today. No one can really tell. But this wasn't an attempt. She wasn't the important figure in who was being targeted. She just happened to be someone who ended up dying as a result. In the same way, you could argue that the police officer who, I think, caught it off the handle off the Skripal's house was an unfortunate person in that situation. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Fortunately, in his case, he did survive, but he did suffer quite badly when the poisoning occurred. Whatever you think, leave comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.